So the Pacers have finally been on the receiving end of a trade that just went down at this deadline. They acquired all-star and all-NBA forward 2 times Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors. The Pacers traded Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and 3 first-round picks, which in my opinion is very low to give up for a player like Pascal Siakam, who is an all-star, who is an all-NBA player. Bruce Brown, he is an NBA champion. He was a part of that team, but Bruce Brown for the Raptors, he's not going to stick around very long because he's a lot older than some of the guys, and the Raptors squad is in a rebuild. And Jordan Nwora, he can be valuable for them, but he wasn't even a rotation player for the Pacers, so it's nothing that they gave up there really much of value. I know you may be thinking that the Pacers gave up a lot of draft capital for a guy that is 30 years old and on an expiring contract at the end of this season. But if we look at the type of player that Pascal Siakam is, he will likely boost the Pacers to a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, which would render the pick useless to the Pacers because they don't necessarily have the spots on the roster for a first-round pick to sit in, let alone even the rotation, because there's guys like Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker, who both first-round picks last year, who are not getting rotation minutes. Jarris Walker was drafted 8th overall in last year's draft, and he's not even getting rotation minutes, so a late first-round pick would most likely not even see any consistent minutes. You'd probably just get in garbage time for a lot of games. Now let's talk about if this move moves the needle along the road for the Pacers. In my opinion, I think the Pacers could end up as a top 4 seed, probably top 5 seed at the very least, considering that Joel Embiid went down with an injury. He's going to be missing the rest of the season. But there are teams that are very good that did make moves at the deadline that could beat out that Pacers team for the 4th seed. And those are teams like the New York Knicks, who acquired Bogdan Bogdanovic in a trade with the Detroit Pistons, and the Red Hot Cavs, who are playing phenomenal despite lots of injuries to their roster and their star players. So one thing also about Pascal Siakam, I really love how good of a fit for this Pacers squad he is. Now, he is number 1 in points and transition this year before he was traded. And Tyrese Halliburton is number 1 in assists and transition. So they can play that very fast-paced, transition-based offense that the Pacers are known for playing this season. This Pacers team also needed a forward like Pascal Siakam because they were predominantly undersized at that position. Pascal Siakam brings a lot of size and a lot of defense that this Pacers squad needed. Now, one guy on the team is not going to change how much the Pacers defense is, but without Halliburton, the Pacers defense did jump up to 17th in the league. Now, that defense has gone down since Tyrese Halliburton has come back from injury, but it is definitely an improvement with Pascal Siakam playing on the floor. Okay, so the NBA trade deadline did wrap up, and Buddy Hield did end up getting traded to the Sixers for Marcus Morris Sr., Furkan Korkmaz, and 3 second-round picks. I'm gonna be honest, this is quite a small return for the Pacers. I don't think the price was right on this trade, but there was obvious intention from Buddy to not resign, and he probably would have just walked in free agency. So this is probably a trade to get something in return for Buddy. Make sure he doesn't walk for nothing. But I am glad that Buddy Hield is off this team. He was very bad on defense, and he was very inconsistent at times. He was so inconsistent to the fact where he was unplayable at end of games sometimes, and he just didn't have any impact on the defensive side whatsoever. And he was just a shell of his former self, so it was not great. And the Pacers did decide to keep Obi Toppin and guys like Jalen Smith on expiring deals, so there's probably going to be an intention to re-sign them and see them as valuable pieces in the future of the Pacers. But the other move that the Pacers did make this trade deadline is they traded for forward Doug McDermott, who was a former Pacer. They traded him away to the Spurs, but now they're getting him back for Marcus Morris Sr. and a second-round pick from the Philly trade. I like this move. He's a better three-point shooter than Buddy, better numbers, but he's still really bad on defense. This Pacers team can't play defense at all. If the regular season were to end now, the Pacers have the worst defensive rating in the entire playoffs. This team would be run out of the first round if they ran into a dominant big man like Embiid. Like we've seen before, dominant big men have put up crazy numbers because the Pacers do not defend the paint at all. We've seen it so many times in the regular season. And I don't know if the defense is going to be able to hold off, because we've seen teams in the past with bad defenses in the playoffs. They've quick, easy first-round exits. There's still a lot of time with Tyrese, and there's still a lot of time he has to make deep playoff pushes with this Pacers team. Hey, there's still a lot of time with him and Pascal, so we'll see how it works out in the postseason.